Welcome to Galatta Plus, Daniel Caltagirone. You're the parallel lead in Thangalaan, I'm
That's right.
hearing,
Yeah.
which is actually very interesting to hear. But before getting to Ranjit, we're going to talk extensively about him and his process,
Great.
and especially your process. But given that you're an actor, uh, and given that you're acting with one of our finest actors, that is Vikram, I wanted to know what did you guys talk about on the set about acting? Because two reasons. One
Yeah.
is Vikram is he's not just a good actor; he's also an amazingly immersive actor. That's one thing that's people know about him here. But the second thing is actors. Indian actors by nature tend to project a bit, whereas British actors tend to rein it in a bit, maybe hold it back a bit.
Yeah.
So some things like this. Did you guys talk about things like this?
Yeah, we have. We've had snatches of this. Oh, by the way, first of all, pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Baradwaj.
Thank you.
We have had snippets of those conversations. I mean, the process for me at first, so back in the West, my style of acting tends to be very naturalistic. Now, it depends on obviously the genre. Sometimes you have to, up the ante, so to speak. But coming here, there is a certain theatricality that you have to lock into, still with honesty, not like over the top acting. But I've had to kind of punch everything up. I remember my first day on set, and Andrew was like, "What? Give me more, like bigger, like sort of be more present, be more physical, be more." And I'm doing all my naturalistic American style, acting. But he was right; it doesn't fit in to the style of the kind of the film he's trying to do. However, having said that, this is not an over, by any stretch of the imagination, this is not an over the top kind of acting style. With Vikram, he is very much in the moment all the time in terms of if something happens, he will very, very quickly adapt and improvise on top of that. So he is, I think Vikram, as you were intimating, is one of the top actors in India. He's very good at just feeling his way in the scene and seeing what's right. Something will happen and he'll say, "Oh, let's utilize that," which I do in the West. But here I'm going to go on the journey. I'm going to go on this journey. I'm going to let Ranjit take me there. I'm not trying to convey something. Do you see what I mean? I'm not a certain style, rather. I think just trying to find the truth of the character. That's my aim. That's my goal. But yeah, I think we haven't talked about it extensively. But Vikram will always be, will always say to me, I like to sort of, in the moment, find something, and he's very good. He's very creative.
So you have to be on your feet.
Always, but with Ranjit, you always have to be switched on.
Okay.
If you're not switched on, he picks up on it from 300 meters away, by the way, with his microphone. He'll be like, "Daniel," and you're like, you're in a crowd of people, but he spots you. You'll say, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, how the hell is he?
Yeah.
He can read me now. So you've got to be very, very, very switched on with not just with Ranjit, but with actors like Vikram, etc.
Can you give me an example of a very quick example of having to punch it up the way you said? Because like let's
Oh yeah, I can give
just
you
take a
many.
line.
Yeah.
Just take a line and say how would you have done it in English film versus how
Yeah.
would you do it here?
Yeah, well, I can't tell you specific line from
Yeah,
the movie
sure,
because I
sure.
can't talk about
Yeah.
specifics of the
Yeah.
movie.
So
There's times when I'm leading this convoy of men on this journey to discover, obviously, this precious item,
gold.
gold.
Yeah.
Even though everyone knows that, I'm still not. It's not going to come out of my mouth. It came out of your mouth. So I'm, obviously leading everyone to try and find gold. And there's many moments where, and you've got to bear in mind the time period, right? In the 1800s, there was a certain way of conducting yourself, especially the British, the way they conducted themselves and the way they viewed those to be inferior to them. However, just as a side note, I have to say this is not your cliche stuff that you might see, as we've just seen with RRR. The portrayal of the Brits in that is very, very cliche. Not that I still love the movie, but that's the way the Brits have been utilised in Indian cinema, right? Correct? Ranjit is not utilising me that way. It's very grey area. There's a lot of times when I'm speaking to this convoy, and I will, in a naturalistic way, say, this is what I need you to do. What I want right now is for all of you to go over there. So I'm saying it in an intense, in Europe we say sottovoce. It comes from the Italian, but it's a util. And I'll say, but intense. And I'll say, we got to go over there. And Ranjit's like, what? What is this? And I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, no, presence, conviction. Conviction is a thing that I think is something that is very prevalent in a lot of Indian movies, that phrase, conviction. And he has it in bucket loads. It's, and he just instills it in me. Conviction in your, you've got to, it might seem big to you, i.e. me, but it isn't. Trust me.
Because
it fits in that time. But, I think in the West, even when we're doing period films, we're still trying to find that naturalistic. But Ranjit's like, no, find what they, how they would have, conveyed themselves. And that goes for posture as well. And he's always saying to me, like, because I was in the military, so he'll say to me, think military. When you were in the military, think that. And then I'll go, oh yeah, okay. And I switch my body language. Because when you walk in a room, especially as an officer, you have to have a presence, right?
Right.
If you've got men and women under you, there has to be a presence. So, he's constantly asking me to, well, not anymore, because it was the first 2 weeks, maybe. Yeah, so that's an example of how, with Ranjit, it's about go for it. Conviction, like really own it, really own it. Which, again, I've recently seen in Indian cinema. Something that would be ludicrous in the West, but the Indians do it so well. Regardless of region, because we know there's many regions, as I'm becoming slowly educated on, but it doesn't matter, there's a conviction. And that's what will sell you. That's what is now buzzing the West with obviously our.
Had Ranjit seen you in a movie, or did he just approach casting agents and say, I have such a role,
No,
I need a...
he hadn't seen me. What he'd done is he approached one of the top casting directors in the UK, who then approached the top agency in the UK, which is independent, and said to them, this very well-known director is looking for a top British actor to convey, this particular role, but it's going to be slightly unusual. For whatever reason, landed on my doorstep. I remember being in the kitchen and my agent called me up and was like, Indian film. And I've said this recently, but of course, immediately I'm like, Bollywood. I'm thinking, I'm really going to get to dance and sing. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to be like, they're like, no, whoa.
No, but they do dance and sing in Tamil films as well.
No, I know,
Yeah.
I know that, but you've got to understand, I'm trying to explain to you the perception in the West.
Yeah.
The moment you say Indian film, we think of, which is completely unfair, because Indian film is far deeper and serious and
More diverse,
and
I would
interesting
say.
and
Yeah.
diverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially again, like all the regions, which again, it's a conversation for a whole another time. They sent Ranjit my CV, my reel. He looked at it and he was like, he's the guy. And that's Ranjit. It's like, no, he's the guy. Yeah, but we've got other, no, that one. So that's how it happened. And I read the script and I knew straight away, I instinctively knew that this was different.
Right.
Because my fear was, I thought, I'm not going there to do one of those British roles of, I am the baddie.
Yeah.
They've got a whole troupe of these actors in India that they hire to do these small roles, and I thought, I'm sorry, I'm not coming there to be this glorified extra. And I spoke to Ranjit on video call, and he was just like, look, this is what it is. And I was like, yeah, this guy's different. I really want to work with this guy. And he pitched it all, and he said, I really want you to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna dive in. And I think there was an element of, slight fear, understandably from the British agents. It's like, what do you mean? Because this is not usual, a usual sort of occurrence with Indian directors kind of reaching out and giving a British actor a lead role. It's not, I'm not saying I'm the first, but it's not something that's common. So I just dived in. That was it. We talked extensively. He said to me, first things, grow a beard. I said, what? He said, grow a beard. I said, please don't let me. He was like, grow a beard. So I said, okay. So I've had this thing on my face now for like 6 months.
So, thing on the face. So you said you read the script. Was it translated entirely into English for you, or did you just read your parts?
Yeah. It was. There was a couple of translations. The first translation, and this is the interesting part, because the first one they had wasn't a great translation. It was just a really rough one, and it was like 160 pages or something. 170 pages. It was insane. But I still understood it, because I understood what Ranjit was trying to convey. Because of the Tamil, it was 6 pages just to explain an image, right? Sorry, in the English.
Yeah.
So it couldn't quite translate. I very quickly started to sort of build this picture in my mind of what he was trying to do. The fundamental is, you either, when you work with someone, a director, you get on, you understand each other implicitly, or you don't, right? And therefore a bit more work is required sometimes to bridge the gap. With Ranjit, I understand him.
Right.
In fact, there's someone there translating sometimes, but I'm always saying to Ranjit, I don't need a translator, I understand you. Because even if the English is not great, it's conviction. That's that word again, conviction. So Ranjit has conviction in spades. And that relationship, it's lovely to have that kind of relationship with a director, and I really appreciate it.
But you have worked with an Indian director before, Shekhar Kapoor, twice.
Well, this is interesting.
And Tarsem Singh. Yeah.
Now, Tarsem's slightly different, obviously, because Tarsem was born in India,
Yeah.
but I think he was the age of 14, 15, went to live in California with his parents.
Yeah.
But they're both Indian directors with Indian, obviously, Tarsem still has his Indian sensibilities.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen his films, I mean, the man is
amazing.
The Fall, which we shot in Rajasthan, you know, if you're a film student, you have to watch The Fall, because
You have to watch all of Tarsem Singh's
all
films.
of Tarsem Singh, but specifically that, because people still ask me today, film students will approach me and say, oh, you know, was it any CGI in that? I'm like, no. And people cannot, their mind is blown. Again, if you think about RRR, wonderful, right? A phenomenal amount of CGI. How Tarsem did that on The Fall, I mean, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. So yes, and Shekhar Kapoor, the great Shekhar Kapoor.
Yeah, The Four Feathers.
Yes, with Heath Ledger, yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is that there has been an exposure to the directorial sensibility there.
Yeah, which helped. That's why I understood it.
You know, but because Shekhar has been working in the West a lot now, and because Tarsem, like you said, is, you know, out there. So was that enough, or did you find any commonality between the way those Indian directors approached filmmaking and the way Ranjit approaches it, or are they two different entities altogether?
Yeah, of course, there's always a commonality. You know, regardless of region, it doesn't matter. You know, an Indian will have a certain style and views things in terms of the bigger picture. Like Shekhar doesn't rush.
Right.
Doesn't rush. Doesn't need to rush. And all, you know, Westerners like, oh, the budget, the thing. Then Shekhar's like, you know, he views it in its very like a Zen-like way. Tarsem the same. And we shot that film took was it 2 years or something? Something like that. Ranjit is more energized, without a doubt, but he still has the big view as well. There's this thing about, and we talked about it obviously before, earlier, about chaos. With all three, it's controlled chaos, right?
Yeah.
But they have absolute control of their set. But there is this element of, well, not so much with Shaker because it was a Western crew mostly, of course, slightly different. But you know, they have, whilst everyone else is going nuts around them, they are in control of their brief. So that's what they had that's what they had in common. And there is the other thing that I love is they all three of them, the humor, the Indian humor. Yeah, it wasn't like I was. And apologies, I should have said that earlier. It wasn't like I was starting a film with Ranjit going, oh, I've never worked in India before. I've never worked with an Indian director. I had, but you have to bear in mind that with Tarsum, again, we were coming from the West to India.
Yeah.
With Shaker, it was, I mean, we're talking about a huge American and British crew. Not quite the same.
Yeah.
And then now you've got Ranjit with like 400 Indians, Tamil mainly, crew, and then there's this one British dude right in the middle, and that, by the way, has been like eye-opening. Like when I first arrived, I'd never had that, because usually you arrive on set, there's a couple of other Brits, Americans, whatever, but I was like looking around, going, oh my goodness, this is, and I have to say, I was quite like, this is great. I'm the only one.
Yeah, like you said, it's a journey.
It's a journey. That's what it is, right? It's a journey. But one other element that I have to mention about commonality between the three is the big canvas, the beautiful shots. I'm blown away, always by the three of them in terms of fine art come alive, right? You know, you go to an art gallery and you see this incredible piece on the wall, and you're just taken back by it, and you don't know where your eyes don't know where to fix first, because it's vibrant, it's energized, it's full of meaning. That's the commonality that you will find with a lot of the best Indian directors. That's what they have in common. They might have a different sort of style, etc. They might have different messages, but that core, that essence, that's what I love. And again, you've just,
I think Indian directors are not apologetic about wanting to do big, do beautiful, do pretty, like if it fits in with the image. I mean, whereas, that whole naturalistic style of, handheld cameras and things like that, I don't think they translate too well here. It's kind of a thing. So
no. I was going to say, when I'm talking about the art form, I'm not saying that, that everything's pretty and beautiful. That's not what I'm trying to say. Even if the subject matter is very intense and dark, there's still this wonderful kind of energy to it, right? And that's something that I found. Now I might just have been lucky, right?
Yeah.
I might just hit the three Indian directors who happen to be that way. But I tend to feel that, having watched quite a few films, Dave feels it.
Very quickly, how long did it take for you to get adjusted to the chaos of an Indian production? It looks like a question you're not going to answer very quickly.
Oh, how could I get used to the chaos?
It took you a week?
A bit longer.
I
think I spent the first week with my mouth scraping the floor. But because again, as I said, there were Western crews before, right? This was the first time I was working with like a Indian crew, and so it took a few weeks. And there's moments now, I'm still like, what's going on? But now, now I'm in the groove, and it's funny. One of the producers actually said to me, so because she'd worked a lot in Bollywood, where it's slightly different and a slightly more Western mentality in terms of how they shoot. So she said to me, you should. She said, in my office I have a Buddha, am I pronouncing Buddha? We say Buddha over there, but you guys pronounce it like you hit the D.
Buddha.
Buddha, right? She said, I have and I said, oh. I said, are you a Buddhist? She went, no. I was like, so what, okay, so why have you got this thing? She went, because when it's absolute chaos on one of my films, and I'm on the phone, 2 phones, I look across to that to give me to sort of some form of tranquility, peace and tranquility. And I was like, that's great. So I went and got myself and put it in my room, put it in my hotel room, and just every now and again I have a good look at that, just to not in a kind of spiritual engagement, but more about the serenity of this thing.
Right.
Just to remind myself that none of us have control over anything.
Yeah.
And if you get into that mindset in India, then you're good. You're good to go. If you try to resist the chaos, my friend, you're screwed. You're done, right? I mean, you have to go. And it took me a while to plug into my Indian co-stars, who are just always like cool as cucumber, always like this, because they're used to it. They kind of. So now I'm plugged in. Now I'm starting to get, okay, all right, fine.
So the first time you met Vikram, you just said you to plug into your Indian co-stars. Let's say the first time you met Vikram or Parvati, was it just a general hello, hi kind of exchange? Or
No, not with Parvati and Vikram. No, they're lovely. It was more like hug and how are you, and I have to say my co-stars have made me feel incredibly welcome. They're incredibly nice. Vikram is always, he can always, again, but a bit like Ranjit, where he will say Danny, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, are you okay? He can, again, he always cares about his co-stars and the crew and what's going on. So no, there was no cold reception.
I wasn't going there at all. Not cold, but I meant, was it a
The
little
engagement.
formal?
No,
That's what I
no,
meant.
it wasn't
Because
formal.
you're all
No.
new to each other that way. Not cold.
No, they were lovely, incredibly lovely. Pasapadi as well, as you know, very funny, very nice. I really lucked out on this cast.
Production, yeah.
No, because you get some very difficult individuals on productions, and I'm experienced enough now to know how to navigate that. Difficult directors, difficult producers, difficult actors. Once you get to that level of experience, you know how to. It still irritates, but it's nice to luck out and go, oh yeah, this is. I don't have to worry about these guys and the director being. I don't know if I can swear on this. I don't want to. Awkward.
Okay. I'll take that.
Brits like to swear, by the way.
Ranjit is a very political director, a very political filmmaker, but he's also, and that gets spoken about a lot. Not a lot gets spoken about how wonderful a filmmaker he is. Apart from the what he wants to convey, the how he conveys it, through his shots and through his compositions. And you were just talking a little about that. Can you tell me, without any spoilers, the first time you discovered his style of filmmaking? Like, can you give me that moment where that click went on in your head that,
This guy's
yes,
the
I've
guy.
spoken to him, yes, I got this idea that he might be this kind of person, but now that I'm seeing him in action, this is what he really is. Can you give me that when that bulb went off in your head?
God, there were so many times that went off. I'm just trying to think of the first.
Or any of the other ones, yeah. Whichever comes to mind.
No, I think he absolutely knows what he wants. That's the first thing, right?
Right.
So when a director is absolutely focused, like a laser, on what the end objective is, it's you feel like you're in good hands, right? So you trust the process, because sometimes you feel you're out at sea because you don't really trust the director because they don't really know where they're going. But there was things like, Ranjit is very good at just utilizing everything around him in that moment. So you'll be in a location, and a lot of filmmakers might waste the opportunity to utilize that whole location. Ranjit doesn't. So that, we start at point A in the morning, and we end up chronologically, at point Z by the end of the day, and then we trek all the way home. Because when we've gone to the middle of nowhere, like gone to the middle of a jungle or something. He's extraordinary. So he will just go, right, no, we've got a valley here. So we'll go down there, and then cross this, then we'll go up that. And so it feels like, as an actor, you're on that journey for real. And that's quite unusual, right? You know, you're always, a lot of the time as an actor, you're constantly having to create the world in your head. Or, you know, that whole thing of you're looking out into the distance, but there's meant to be a landscape of no one, but there's 400 people staring at you, right? But with Ranjit, that's quite easy because he puts you in that place for real. So when if you see me staring out, I'm not going to tell you to what I'm staring out to, obviously, but a lot of the time when you see me do it, right, I'm doing it genuinely looking out, and I'm looking at something that is genuinely affecting me, or genuinely I'm in that place.
Right.
I was amazed by his energy. Again, I know this is a theme that is going to keep coming up in this interview with him, energy. And then, of course, there's that moment when Ranjit will say, come and have a look if you want. Because every actor's different, and I don't tend to look at the monitor. I don't like looking at myself. I tend to think it kind of affects your performance. But, I remember that first time I went round and he did playback, and I was like, oh my, this is beautiful. Kishore, our DOP, is amazing, but between him and Ranjit, I mean, it's just this thing of beauty, the landscape and everything else. And that's when I was like, okay. With that, plus everything else, I thought, this guy is, he's a special he's a special filmmaker.
Right.
And more importantly, actually, because I've worked with amazing filmmakers who happen to be not very nice individuals, some of them. And that's fine. I don't have to have dinner with you. I don't have to see you after the film is done. It's a professional process, right? But with Ranjit, I mean, heart of gold.
Right. I have to ask you about one thing.
Go for it.
Completely unrelated to Thangalaan.
Doesn't matter.
But,
Ask me anything.
But I have to know what it was like to work with Roman Polanski, because he's such a legend, and you worked with him, and in one of your early films, The Pianist. And yes, it's not a big role, but you were there. What was that like?
Well, it was quite early in my career. Okay, how do I answer Roman Polanski? Before I worked with Roman Polanski, he was in my top 5 of directors of all time. So when I got the call, he'd been sent a clip of mine. I don't know what he'd been sent. This is an absolute true story. I was in bed, asleep. And I always turn my phone off, but I left it on. And my phone rang. And I was like, what the hell? And I picked up the phone, and it was Roman Polanski. Well, hang on. He said he was Roman Polanski. And I was like, what? And I'm trying to tune into one of my friends for whatever reason. I thought it was a random joke, it's a bit of a stupid joke. But so I'm half asleep, and he's trying to say, it's Roman Polanski. I'd like to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. And I was absolutely, it obviously the coin dropped, because I'd seen him in so many interviews, and his voice was very distinctive. And I thought, if someone's doing an impression of him, this is just genius. So I might as well go along with it anyway. But that was one of the most important moments in my life as an artist. I was in fear that he would disappoint, because you're
sometimes your idols kind of
exactly
yeah.
And I remember everyone was blown away. All my colleagues were like, oh my God, but they couldn't understand why that was my main worry about being disappointed. But he didn't disappoint. The problem is we bandy around the word genius too frequently these days. The word has become watered down now. And, oh, he's a genius. Oh, she's a genius. Oh, they're genius. Oh, geniuses. We're geniuses. Everyone on social media thinks they're geniuses. Let me start me on that. He's a genius. He's one of so my favorite period of filmmaking was the 1970s in America.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
Alongside, Scorsese, and Spielberg came around at that point. Friedkin. I mean, the list is endless,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Coppola.
But
Yeah.
a cop. Oh, I can forget.
You're Italian and
Oh
you
my
forgot.
God!
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
obviously shot my favourite film also. Godfather Part 2, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a very it's a fine line. It's a struggle sometimes to make that decision between Godfather and Godfather Part 2. Anyway, so Polanski comes from that era, my favourite era. I'm working with him, and he's not disappointing. He was the first director that, he took Adrian Brody and
Very,
I,
yeah.
under his wing, and he was, every morning, this was an extraordinary thing about him. There's this legend, and every morning we'd have breakfast with him when we had our scenes, and we were free to tell him, to say, I've got an idea. So Roman would be like, all right, we'll try that, right? He didn't need to try Adrian's idea or my idea. If it was a good idea, he would go for it, he would try it. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't work, it didn't work. But he allowed you that. He wanted you to bring stuff to the table. That's Roman. And he wants you also, if you're very sensitive as an actor and you're kind of like, you're on set and you're kind of too worried about your hair, or hang on, mate, wait a minute, I've got a little thread on my track, it drives him nuts. He's about, commitment, being a tough actor, getting in there. That was an extraordinary process. I mean, obviously, the flip side of that is there's this incredible dark element that, follows Roman around for obvious reasons, and that's this tragedy of it, and that's the shame of it. But you can't take away the artistry. But unfortunately, the other side of it is not great.
Another question, not exactly related to Thangalaan, but related to your training as an actor in the Guildhall School.
Guildhall School of Music and
School of
Drama.
Music and Drama. Now, what is acting training? I mean, like, for example, do they say, okay, today's just read out do some Shakespeare. Today, just imagine you're an ice cream cone. I mean, what is it like?
Actually, there was one class that would have been like that. Be a flower.
You were asked to be a flower?
Many things. We were asked to be many things. I mean, I have to say that the period, I don't know what it's like now, but I imagine it's still up there. But the period I was there, it was the go-to place, not just in Europe, one of the go-to places in the world.
Right.
Incredible instructors. What they did is, it wasn't just a classical education. It wasn't just, because everyone always thinks, oh, we're just doing Shakespeare all day long. We're not. It was, they brought in Eastern philosophy, philosophy from around the world in terms of different acting styles. In fact, in our second year, they invited all the top drama institutions from around Europe to convene in a place in Italy, in an old monastery, to come together. We'd all mixed together, so my year was mixed with everyone else. And we learnt each other's styles. And Guildhall was very passionate about not just having one way mode of doing things. So we would study kabuki theatre. I mean, we would study Japanese theatre sometimes, African style theatre, or storytelling, ancient storytelling. Certain Indian, elements came into it as well, in terms of mythology. So, it could be anything. Conveying some of the gods, some of your 3.5 million gods.
Yeah.
So it was one of the most incredible learning experiences. At one point, we even had a top Russian director come over to convey, because the Russians are very physical. So it was about, getting rid of the kind of the stiffness and trying to be more physical and utilizing that with the British sensibilities, the technical aspects,
Right.
merging it together. We'd have dancers come work with us, so we'd look at them freeing us up, and then we would in exchange go and work with the dancers, because they would want our sort of mode of how you express yourself, right? And that's the interesting part about acting is. Acting or filmmaking or film or cinema is the sum parts of all the art forms,
Right.
right? We would study art. We would go to galleries and just sit there. We'd be made to sit there and watch, just look at an art piece all day. Then we would have to convey that art piece in the space. Now you're probably thinking,
As in act it out?
yeah.
Okay.
So you're thinking, how do you convey an art piece in the space? You know, and I'm talking about Pollock, right? You know Pollock, right?
Right.
And we're all looking at each other going, that's Pollock. And like, you know, I remember Ken Ray, who's our guru, he was like, right, convey it. And you're looking at each other like, oh. But he was right, because what he's saying is, okay, what is that telling you? There's an energy to that piece. There's an energy in everything. There's an energy in your shoe.
Yeah.
Energy in that book. There's energy, what do they say, that can't be created or destroyed, right? So constantly surrounded by it. But the key is, how do you convey energy? So we would study that. We would study music. How does different songs affect you? So it was a complete, that's what made it one of the best courses. It was a really rounded course. And I still utilize some of that stuff. Not all of it, but instinctively I'll utilize it.
Because it's already inside you now.
It's already inside me, yeah. I mean, I love theatre. Do I miss theatre? Yes, because that's where my training came from. But for me, cinema, as I just pointed out, it is the sum.
Yeah.
And it goes back to ancient storytelling around the campfire in the village, when people would talk about their cultures or myths or gods. All of that then went into the written word, which became plays and poetry and writing, which became theatre, which then eventually, you know, obviously music was involved in that, and dance, which eventually all became cinema.
Yeah.
And if I was to summarize it, that's why I love being here. I love working with Ranjit. I love being in India. I love the Indian culture. I love Indian filmmaking, because here we still, you guys still, I'm saying we, you guys still have that sensibility of trying to merge all the art forms and trying to convey that. We're losing it in the West, unfortunately. We're having a bit of a crisis in the West with filmmaking right now. So hence why an Indian film has suddenly become big over there, because Indian, you know, American audiences, English audiences are bored, you know, and just people are like, oh, this is new, this is interesting. And again, I'll keep saying it until until you stop me from saying it. But conviction.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's what audiences are looking for in the West. And you know, you've got these films with hundreds of millions of pounds of budget, and there is no conviction. And you know, they're scratching their heads. Why has this not been successful? And it's so obvious to me, so obvious all the time. But I can't. There's no passion. There's no real. It's like a blueprint. Oh, we do this. We sell it to this streaming service. It's all about the money at the end of it. They're not thinking first about, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? And can I say this well? Am I going to invest in the writing and the actors? No, they just throw money at it, make it look glossy.
Yeah.
So me now spraying that wall a bright colour and going, oh, look, that's art. It's not. Conviction, passion, belief.
Right.
It's a problem in the West right now. It's a real problem.
Yeah. One of the most fascinating aspects that I find about Ranjit personally is his immense and intense belief that films can change society, that cinema has the power to change like the way people think, you know, that it can genuinely lead us to a better place. What are your views on that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have been skeptical. I lost that passion, I have to say. One of the reasons I'm here is because of that very reason, because I was bored. I'm one of those people that I was just talking about.
Right.
I sat there going, no, oh God, maybe I should do a different profession. Maybe I should do, you know what I'll do? Because as much as I love film, the formula that was being used, the same type of actor, especially in England, they kind of use, is just dull and boring, the same crap. I'm going to give you an example, right? And I'll get back to this question. The other day, I don't normally do this, but I was on YouTube. As I was scrolling through, something came up and it said, forthcoming big movies of 2023, right? And it's one of those things where they clip the trailers together. And it was like 20 minutes long. And I thought, God, dare I even look at this without getting acid in my stomach, right? I thought, dare I even press play? I thought, come on, you know, because you're always hopeful that things are going to, interesting stuff's going to come along. So I press play like an idiot, right? Huge budgets, big actors, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like gobsmacked. Awful. You know, you can just tell, you can tell in a 30-second clip what you're going to be dealt in effect. There wasn't one film that interested me because all of those films was the repeat of last year's films, was the repeat of the year previous to that and the year previous to that. And I'm just over it. I'm done. And so, you know, there's no imagination. It's almost the crisis that happened in Hollywood in the 60s, was it?
Yeah.
And that's what where the 70s happened. So I'm praying for that. I'm praying for maybe are we on the verge of that? I don't know. Maybe not, because now we have streaming. It's a different monster.
Yeah.
So Ranjit, that was one of the reasons I wanted to work with him, because he's saying something important, right? He's utilizing his conviction to express his beliefs and about injustice and about, you know, how people should be treated and, you know, how we can make the society better. Really human kind of themes about greed and desire and need and hunger and all these things. And that, it's like we've lost that in the West. What are we, I don't understand what we're doing anymore. It's just this crap of, what did I say about spraying the wall? It's all about, let's make it as loud as possible and as brash as possible with no real conviction and meaning behind it. Nothing. So Ranjit is a social commentator. He's an important filmmaker. He believes that film can change society. Depending on which point in my life you would have asked me that question, I'd have said, it's BS. You know what I mean by BS? It's BS. No, film is just entertainment. Because there's times I've gotten really peed with everything. I'm like, pretentious nonsense of certain actors and, you know, in award ceremonies that drive me nuts. I can't watch award ceremonies.
Yeah.
When they stand there like, oh, and I want to thank, and we can change the world. And I'm like, please shut up. Please just go up there and say thank you. You know, I really love working with this filmmaker and I'm really happy to be here and want to thank whatever, you know, obviously be generous about it, but, you know, don't take yourself too seriously, because there's people out there who are working in literally in sewers sometimes. So who, you know, life and death is in a second, you know, they're always on the edge of that. So try to just be as freaking humble as possible, for goodness sake. With Ranjit, he's a million miles away from that. He's humble. He cares passionately about what he's doing. So you're asking me at this point in my life, right? And I am going to say yes. If it's done with conviction, if it's done with passion, if it's done with great intention. Now look, we know it doesn't always work. You have filmmakers who do all of those,
Yeah.
and for some reason the film doesn't work, right? There's that last element that only the gods know.
Yeah, and those are the ones that you typically call Oscar bait.
Oscar bait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know they film it in a certain way
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
generic, and you know
Yeah.
that the Oscar voters
Yeah.
are going to say,
Yeah.
oh, it's such a noble theme, we're going to give it
Yeah.
an award. Yeah, but this is very different.
But this is very different. So there's a lot of Oscar bait going on, and that again is driving me mad because there's no real content. And you've got people like Scorsese being criticised because he's like saying, these superhero movies, you know, guys, look, that's fine, there's a place for it, but what about all this other stuff? I remember him getting, what did they say? You're not moving with the times. If that's the times, I don't want to be part of it either. I'm sorry, but it just, you know, it's out and out insanity, right? Thangalaan, for example, I think this is going to be an amazing film. It's a beautiful film. It's full of heart. It's full of passion. But again, obviously, that final bit of magic dust, I pray that, you know, it has, and the audiences really take to it. But what I love is, just to finish your question really, is that audiences don't just view Ranjit as a celebrity. They view him as an important commentator on their lives. So that's why the Tamil audience have really taken to him. And we've had that in the West. We used to have it, and we've no longer got it. Where are they all? I don't know where they are anymore. Because the people can control the purse strings. Unfortunately, they're not allowing these young filmmakers to come through.
Right.
The short answer to my very long explanation is yes. I do believe that film can provoke a change. Not like, you know, oh, it's changed. They're going to change the laws. And no, it's more about, it can provoke seeds in a young person to go, you know, I want to do this. I want to become politically active. Or I want to join this. I want to do that. I want to do something for my community. Film, if it's done well, can be incredibly powerful. And I have to go back to The Pianist, right? That was really important to people who were still alive that had been affected by the Holocaust. It's an incredibly educational movie, and one not to be forgotten for any culture, about how power can completely monopolize or transform a nation of good people into absolute monsters. I mean, you go down that road, and what are we witnessing now with polarization? The stuff I'm seeing in America, I would never, ever have imagined in my wildest dreams. Having spent a lot of my childhood there, because I've got family in New York, going there often. This amazing country that's been polarized, and then nearly had an insurrection in the United States.
Yeah.
And if I'd have told you that 5 years ago, you'd have laughed in my face, right? Or sorry, you know, even longer. But anyway, so there, yes, it can.
Yeah. So the last question I want to ask you is, what are you taking away from Thangalaan, both as a part of the race that once ruled India, and as
The
race
what?
that
Oh,
once
race, right? Sorry, yes,
that
race.
once ruled India,
Yeah.
and as a citizen of the present day world?
Wow, that's a question. As a citizen of the present day world, what am I taking? All right, so what am I taking away from Thangalaan? It's a very good question, by the way. But I'm taking away hope. And what I mean by that is, that just follows from what I just said about, I just sat there going, we're screwed. Filmmaking's dead, right? But with filmmakers like Ranjit, it's not. Look at South Korea. I mean, with Parasite, what an amazing film.
Yeah.
But the West is having to starting to look at, you know, Asian countries to get their films of substance. You know, if you're pitching that in America or England, they'd say, oh no, they'd probably go, oh, is it going to work? Hope that filmmakers like Paranjit, there are going to be more of them. Hope that he will, you know, his work will be seen in the West and appreciated in the West. I think it's time. I think it's now time for him. You know, people need to see his stuff. How things can be in terms of just simple things like friendship, you know, community on a set. You know, his set is full of community and love and warmth, because that always comes from the top. If the director and the producers are of that mindset, it filters right down to everyone else, right? So I take that away with me on a personal level. What was your second question?
As someone who once ruled India.
I was hoping you'd forgotten that. So after, so what in terms of, you're asking me in terms of how
No,
I
has this experience of playing a British person at a period in time when you know, you were actually here, you're ruling India, not really having a hierarchy of that kind of created all kinds of problems. And it has it made you reflect on British history, Indian history?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I've said this recently in an interview. You can't help but not be affected, and educate yourself, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? I mean, we don't educate ourselves anymore. People don't really read books and really find out. Look, all the answers. This to be succinct as possible for you, but all the answers for all of our problems today, they're not in some sort of mystical land or mystical manuscript that we need to dig up. All you've got to do is turn your head backwards to history, and every answer that we currently are searching for is there. Everything.
Right.
The issue of empire. What does that mean? What were the effects of it? How has it shaped the Indian psyche? You have to forgive me because I'm still learning that. I'm still talking to people about it, and there's a lot of different views out there. But it had a profound effect on India, and and it's still the effect is present with you and I right now. And why is it present? Because what's the common language in India? It's English. Now that blows me away because when I first came to India, I thought everyone was going to be speaking one language, and there was like these. I remember having two Indians like not understanding each other, and I thought they were joking. Oh, no, that's explained. They were from different regions, and so what was the commonality was English, right? So that period of empire was a period that obviously all empires enrich themselves. What they leave behind, that's the issue, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've had some Indians say to me, "Oh, we had, when the British left, our cultural civilization was far poorer for it," and others who were like,
Yeah.
"What are you kidding me? The reason we're in this state is because of." So that it depends on who I'm talking to. I think there was incredible hardship. We know what that was. We know how that manifested, right?
Right.
It's really easy when foreigners come to a country and go, "Oh, this is what it's about," or "Oh, you should be doing it this way," and it's like, shut up.
Right.
Don't insult people. Just learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
Make your own educated sort of assessment of it. But ultimately, I'm still, even if I was here for another 2 years, I'd probably still only scratch the surface
Right.
of it. India is incredibly complicated, because of that complicated landscape. It makes it incredibly wonderful,
Right.
incredibly rich. I think Indians, I know if I'm not going to, let's leave regions to one side. I want to talk about Indians, talk the whole country, right? They should be proud of this country. They should be proud of the people. Indians, I love because they are, and this goes without saying for filmmaking, let's put that to one side. But Indians are, I found them to be, like, in general, intelligent, curious, and wanting to always improve themselves. And I genuinely feel that this is the country to watch in the next 10 years. Things are going to happen here. I really do.
Yeah.
If investment is put into the infrastructure, but this could be the most incredible, innovative country because the mind, you've got incredible minds here. You've got everything, ancient culture that is.
Yeah, I was actually, thinking about, you talked about your theater experience and how they asked you to do different things, and very few people, it's one thing to read about history in a book, but you are enacting, by enacting some of that history, you are immersing yourself personally into like a world that existed not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I thought that must be an incredible privilege to kind of have that
It's always a privilege.
it's close understanding of what went on. That's
Baradwaj it's always a privilege. I've played Roman centurions and when you have this incredible set design around you, I have to pinch myself. The way Ranjit shoots this and the way he has put it together, I sometimes think that I'm in there. I'm in that period.
Right.
Not for not for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but there's seconds, those split seconds. I check myself because of the world he's creating. And so, yes, it's an incredible privilege. But you did ask me about being a citizen of the world, didn't you? And you were saying, how does it feel at the moment to be a citizen of this world?
Yeah, not this as in like today with, because you're talking about a film that, in your own words, you said it talks about injustice, it talks about hunger, and it talks about how people treat each other badly, and all that kind of stuff. And today we are witnessing a world that is, I don't know how to put this in polite words, but
Is imploding on itself?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Thank
one.
you,
I thought
thank
you were
you,
going there.
thank you for that. But yeah. So when you watch, a film like this, or when you're not watching, sorry, when you're
When I'm in it,
in it,
yeah.
when in a film like it, does it also make you reflect on what's outside?
And that goes back to what I was saying about
Yeah,
hope.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what.
yeah.
Sorry,
So,
because I was not. I don't think I explained myself
yeah,
that well when I was talking about hope. But that's the hope. That again, I've got children,
right.
so I'm petrified of what's going on. And when you've got the most powerful economy in the world, and where the kind of, and where, a country where democracy was the kind of bedrock of its existence, right? Society is on the brink, or was up until recently, but I'm still, we still don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. A country that holds nuclear weapons as well. I mean, you lose hope, and you are worried for your children, and just the generations, future generations. What gives you hope is when you have social commentators like Ranjit, and there are many like him out there around the world who are currently mobilizing to get some common sense, or like back into the kind of human psyche. I mean, so my position in the world right now is one of skepticism, a little bit of fear, but ultimately hope.
Yeah.
And that goes for the arts, and because remember, art and life are so interconnected. So one affects the other, and that's what we've seen, right? We've seen that in filmmaking, and as I've said, it's been a horror show, because culture, everything's lowest common denominator. Let's dumb everything down. Social media, where do you even start with that? But
Yeah. Let's not.
let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not. There are good people out there who are trying, who are really trying. So being on Thangalaan and meeting someone like Ranjit that's a start, right? It has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And he has a voice, he has a presence, so yeah.
So glad you shared these thoughts with us, Daniel. And it was like, it was good to get these points of view. So thank you so much.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I like I said, there's one other thing I really would like to say, and because I'm really passionate about this bit, and this is really a message to all Indian film goers. What we did in the West is we inadvertently, without the public really knowing what was going on, because of greed, etc., and stupidity, we've lost cinema. Where do we watch most of our films now in the West? We go to watch it on our big flat screen TVs. Now, cinema as an art form, as you know, I'm sorry, but filmmakers like, for example, Ranjit, or we've just seen SS Raja Malin, is that right?
Yeah.
Huge canvas, huge. Now, if that's not being seen on cinema screens, you're losing something. You're losing a part of the work. It's only ever going to be up 50% max. You're always losing 50% of this work, because what happened was cinema proprietors started getting greedy, putting their prices up. So now a family of four are spending $150, $200, or pounds, whatever, on 4 tickets and 4 popcorns and 4 Coca-Colas or whatever it is. And so people were like, well, actually, I can save this money, stay at home, invest in a TV. So then the money started going even higher, because they had to cover their overheads because people weren't coming. And so now you've got no cinema goers, and now cinema's dying. And so my message to the Indian cinema going public is, support your local cinema. Please, streaming is great as well because you can catch up on movies, but initially, watch movies where they're meant to be watched. Watch them in the cinema. Because, you know, Thangalaan, for example, if you watch that in the cinema, you're going to be blown away. Don't let cinema die in this country because India is so rich with its cinematic, you know, history. If you guys start to lose cinema and that whole sense of community and the whole family going and everything else, you trust me, you will be, you know, you will be less rich in terms of your existence. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, and that's a great note to end this on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you.
Experience 10 days of Grand Europe trip for easy EMI of Rs 25,000 only with GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Wonder Diamond, South India's largest lab-grown diamond brand, stores at Chennai, Coimbatore, Bangalore and Hyderabad.